Hello everyone, my name is Anjali and today I will be teaching you chapter number 10 from ninth grade English NCERT textbook, and the chapter's name is Kathmandu. So it is pretty obvious from the chapter's name that it is about a city called Kathmandu, which is in Nepal. You all know Nepal is connected to India. It is very near to India and it is a beautiful place, and Kathmandu is capital of Nepal. It is the most beautiful city of Nepal, and it is written by Vikram Seth. He wrote whole a book for his travel logs, where he traveled in different city, how he traveled. So this is taken from his book, and in this chapter he has written so wonderfully all the places in Kathmandu he visited. He has noted every single detail which he saw in Kathmandu, and it is pretty nice that how he has mentioned it becomes so easy to think of a city in your head, how that city would be. So let's start the chapter with a small summary of the chapter. Kathmandu summary will help students learn about the story written by Vikram Seth, which is an expert from the book Heaven Lake. So as I told you, this chapter is taken from a book. The book's name is Heaven Lake, and it is a wonderful book which is written by Vikram Seth. He has mentioned all the places very beautifully, so you can picture the place in your mind that how it would be by just reading his books. So this story tells us about author's visit to a capital of Nepal, Kathmandu. We see that he was coming from China to visit India while hitchhiking. So as I told you that it is about traveling, so author has written about everything, and when he came to Kathmandu, he came by hitchhiking from China to India via Nepal. So he had to go to Nepal, and he visited it. In this hitchhiking, he crosses Tibet and Nepal. Thus, this story gives us account of his experience in Kathmandu. This travel log gives an insight on his trip to the city and what he feels about it. On his trip to Kathmandu, Vikram visits the two most popular temples of city. One is Pashupatinath temple and the other is Buddhanath stupa. So in this visit he has mentioned the two very famous and beautiful temples, and he has written really beautifully that how he saw the temples, the stupa, and it is pretty amazing that how he has mentioned it. Even I feel like visiting to Kathmandu to see this all places. So he noticed the difference between the two temples and the atmosphere surrounding them. Thus, though Kathmandu summary, we travel to the city without actually going there through Vikram's magical words. So as I told you, he has mentioned every single detail in this travel log. So we can travel everything without even going there by just reading his travel log, because he has mentioned every single thing that you can see in Kathmandu, and it is pretty beautiful that you can even imagine those things that how it would be and you feel like going there. So let's start the main story. Vikram Seth describes his visit to capital of Nepal, Kathmandu, through his excerpt from his book Heaven Lake. During his trip, he visits two temples where noticed stark difference between them. One temple was pilgrimage of Hindus, Pashupatinath temple. So in this he is telling about the two temples he visited, and he is saying that both of those temples are literally so different from each other, that people worshipping their culture, their religion is all very different, and how those two temples are built is also very different. So you will see in this travel log that how this temple are different from each other, and how he has also mentioned the surrounding, the atmosphere of the temple. I think it is a very important it helps you to feel that how surrounding of those temple would be. He has also mentioned it, and I think he had did a very amazing job. After that, there was Buddhanath temple, which is for Buddhists. He noticed that they restrict to entry at the Pashupatinath temple to only Hindus. So Pashupatinath temple is only for Hindus. They do not allow any other religion to enter the temple. I think it is pretty evident that this temple was built for the Hindus and built by the Hindus for their god for worshipping, and they do not allow any other religion people. I mean, obviously it is beautiful place and there would be so many visitors from different countries, states, but they were not allowing any other people from different religion like Christian, Muslims, or any other people who are not Hindu were not welcomed in those temple. I mean, you can't say much about that because there are some boundaries they set for their own people. Every religion have their own place of worship, and this is place for Hindu, but you can see temple from the outside, and which is really beautiful. Thus there was a quite a chaos amongst the tourists, priests and pilgrimages. To top it all, people were polluting river Bagmati by washing clothes in it, bathing in it, and throwing away dry flowers in it. So this temple is situated near a river Bagmati, and I think the atmosphere would be really nice around that because it is situated near to the river, and we all love river banks, and it would be really beautiful. But he also noticed that people were really polluting the water of the river by throwing dirt in that, washing clothes, bathing in it, and also throwing dried flower. I think this dry flower they mean by this is people use this flower for worshipping god and everything, but after that they do not throw it in dustbin, rather throwing it in dustbin they throw it in river. But actually I feel that it's not polluting river because at the end of the day flower is also a part of earth, and it is really easy for it to transform and to get dissolved in the water. After some day it will be vanished from the water, so I don't think that that is a problem. But bathing in it and washing clothes in it, you are adding so much of soap sulfate in the water, which is eventually polluting the water, so that's not the nice thing. So he also noticed such things. After that, he went to Buddhanath temple. He saw that scenario here was completely different from what he saw at Pashupatinath temple. This Buddhist temple had a huge dome which is white in color. The place was very calm and serene. Outside the temple there was Tibetan market, and people were selling bags, clothes, ornaments and more. So when he went to Buddhanath temple, he saw that scenario there was completely different. The surrounding was different, people were different, and it was a huge dome which was white in color. So he saw that the building was quite different from other temples. It was built with a really huge dome like shape, oval shape, which we called, and which was painted white. It was white in color and it was looking amazing when he got there. And else it is white in color, it is a symbol of peace, and it was a really calming place for people. And another thing that he noticed, that there were Tibetan market outside the temples where people were selling clothes, bags, ornament. I think in Nepal mostly people prefer home handmade things, so they must be selling these things. They made handmade sweaters, they made handmade ornaments, bags, clothes, and so many things are handmade, which is a quite good thing because they are doing it by their hand, and the quality of those things are really nice. I personally love the handmade ornaments. I think they look really amazing and pretty. So they must be selling this kind of things outside the temple in the market. He noticed the numerous things Kathmandu offers for religious places to many tourist destinations. So, author has mentioned that not only the temples are visiting point in Kathmandu, but also there are many different tourist destinations. I mean, whenever we visit some place, there is their culture. Like if we visit Manali, there are so many temples and also so many visiting place, adventurous place, such as in Kathmandu. The author is saying that there are many temples to visit in Kathmandu, but rather than visiting those temples, you can also visit the other tourist destination which is quite famous over there. I mean, there would be some river banks or adventurous trips or mountain hikes. These things would be very famous over there. Moreover, it also has various shops of antiques, cameras, cosmetics, chocolates, and more. Nonetheless, it is also very noisy city from the car horn to the music and vendors. He enjoyed having marzipan bar, corn, Coca-Cola in the city. After that, he also read love stories, comics, Reader's Digest book. So the author is describing about how he spent his days and which are the places he visited and how was the city. So he's telling that city was quite huge with a lot of people, and of course they use means of travel transport. So he's telling that it was quite a noisy city because of the honking and so many people over there, but still the city was beautiful, and he spent his evening really nicely at marzipan bar and eating corn, Coca-Cola in the city, enjoying city by reading some books, and he had a great time over there. On returning to Delhi, he thought of taking an adventurous route which comprises of bus, train journey and then boat ride. But he dropped the idea for that would be too tiring. Thus, they booked a flight back. So he's telling that he decided that he would be traveling by bus and train so he can see everything over there, notice every natural thing over there. But he thought that it will be very tiring, and the journey consists of so many days, 2-3 days for traveling from one place to another to get to Delhi. So after that, he settled for taking a flight so that he can reach there quickly and see new places over there. He saw an interesting flute seller outside his hotel. He had pole with a lot of fluids and it seemed like a porcupine body. So he's describing that he saw a flute player, a person who plays flute, selling flute, and he had a large pole where all the flutes were surrounded. I think we all have seen that if we go to some fairs in India, there are so many people who are selling flutes in the fair. So we all have seen those people who are selling flute and how they have decorated their pole with all the flutes stuck outside like a flower shape. And he's telling that he saw it like a porcupine body. Porcupine is an animal. I'm sure you have seen it in zoo. Porcupine is a black and white animal who has a really sharp feathers which look like a very pointed flute and very thin. But he thought that he had decorated his pole like a porcupine's body. The flute seller kept playing his flutes and also did so in different tunes. But what set him apart from the other flute seller was that he played the flute thoughtfully. He did not scream to attract customers, he played it. So he is telling that a person who was selling flute was also playing the flute and very fluently selecting very nice music, and he was attracting so many people, but not by screaming and telling them to buy his flute, rather doing those all things. He was actually playing the flute for them so that people are more attracted and wants it to play. He did not scream to attract customer, he played it. This attracted the author and he wondered that flute is so common all over. Then he compares it to the human voice and says how he is noticing even the little thing now. So, as I told you, he is noticing every single thing in Kathmandu. So, he tells that I have also noticed such things in Kathmandu. So, this was the chapter. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you.